right. Welcome to Tell Your Story. All right, first question. Tell us your name, where you're from, and how old you are.
Okay, so my name is Paisley, and I live in Columbus, Mississippi, and I am 29.
29, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about your experience with miscarriage.
Yeah.
Why is telling us your experience with it important to you?
Two reasons come to mind. The first one is that I feel like it's definitely something that's not talked about and discussed enough. I know when it happened to me, I didn't really have a big outlet to express it. You don't really know what to say lots of times, and with anything else I've gone through in my life, it's a lot easier if I, have somebody who can identify with me. And so I want to put this out there to hopefully, let other women know that it doesn't have to be so taboo.
Right.
And the other thing is that when I did lose the child, I don't know. There's only a few ways that you can try to remember a child, and I feel like this might be a cool one to do so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so tell us a little about your miscarriage experience.
Okay, so March of 2017, I was in a grocery store, and there were grapes lined along the floor that I did not, obviously see. I slipped and I fell. And about a week later, I knew something wasn't right, and I saw the signs, that I had possibly miscarried, and I went to the ER. I did the normal steps, and I eventually did find out that I had miscarried.
Okay. So during that time, what were your emotions? And then, during that experience, and then shortly after, what were you going through?
Yeah, so I guess initially I was in shock. Absolutely. I was in denial for a while. I guess I went through all the normal stages of grief, whatever normal is. I definitely went through anger, but the grieving process, I actually haven't had, a loss that's like really close to me other than this miscarriage. And it's really crazy because I actually mourn things that I would never get to see instead of those things that I would never see again.
Right.
I'd already had a child, and so I knew what it felt like to hold that child in your arms and to, see the first steps and all those things. And I definitely grieved that after the baby was gone.
So you more grieved those things that you would never get to experience with that child versus...
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you feel like the miscarriage changed you as a woman?
Yeah, I do. I think that as a woman, I definitely, I'll say this, thereafter I had a lot of reflecting to do, and it took a lot of trusting and having faith in the fact that I did have, when the doctors told me that I would be able to have a child in the future, I had to trust that. I had to believe that. It was a long process. I went through therapy for that because it is, in my opinion, it's very, very healthy to talk about it, because keeping those kinds of things inside, it began to eat me alive. And it's really hard to talk about, period, but when you have a professional to help you along the way, it definitely makes things easier. And so I said all that to say this, that when I did the therapy, it helped me to grow as a woman. It helped me to become stronger and to understand that, I'm not alone in this thing, but even if I were, I do have it in myself to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
And, we're talking about it. I know that, I've never had that experience, but I have lots of friends and families that have. And the hardest thing for me was, what do you say? And that's a very hard thing to, what do you say to someone in that situation? So, what do you feel was the worst thing that someone said to you, and how did you handle it?
So, before I tell you exactly what was said, I do understand that people have the best intentions most of the time and they don't want to hurt feelings, and you really don't know what to say. Like I said, that's part of the reason that I wanted to do this video. But it was actually said to me, I had a friend who went through a miscarriage and she's fine now. And it broke my heart because I'm like, this was about 2 weeks after it had happened, and I hadn't even, gone through all the medical process, that I needed to go through. And I felt like it was downplayed, absolutely. And I understand, that people who have not experienced it don't understand, all these things that we're talking about. And so I understand that it's coming from a good place, but I don't know, just like anything else, I feel like each individual experiences things differently. And so I just feel like, we definitely need to be sensitive to that. But as I was saying earlier, that the 2 words I wanted to hear most was I'm here. I just wanted to know that I wasn't alone. When I was ready to talk, that they were there. And my husband was very good about doing that for me. So
Good answer. So then, what about like Mother's Day or the baby's due date? Have those been hard days for you, or are there other days that are harder?
Right. So, okay, the due date for the child, I had not received it yet. When I had my miscarriage, I was 6 weeks along. And so March every year, I definitely, because that's when I found out that I was pregnant. It is tougher for me. Sometimes the 13th is the day. And so I don't know that it's necessarily hard, but I definitely find myself reflecting,
right.
And then Mother's Day, the first Mother's Day after my miscarriage, it was really, really, really hard because I looked at my son and I was like, I should be grateful for this, little man that I have here that I can put my hands on, but I could not help but have a longing for the child that I did not have in my arms. And so there was actually a sense of guilt there, so I had to work through that and understand that I'm still human, and those emotions are valid, but we can work through them. So Mother's Day now, I just think about her, and I think it's a her. That's just me, but I just think about the baby, and it's much more positive now.
Good. So, what does the grieving process look like? What was that like for you?
Right. So yeah, just as I was saying earlier, basically the initial thing that I went through was shock, and then I went through denial. And when I say denial, I mean I was in denial that
No.
I was in denial that the fall caused it. I went through a period where I was very much blaming myself, choices I had made, the steps I had taken. Was I wearing the right shoes? It wasn't enough to me. It wasn't enough to me to say the fall was the problem initially. And there was actually, this whole big other situation surrounding it with the fall and, it being in a public place. And something in my heart was just, it never would. All signs led to that was what it was. But I could not help but take it on myself. And I think as a mother, we do that anyways. But that was one of the things that I struggled with a lot as well, as far as denial was concerned, because I had doctors telling me this is what this is, and I was in denial.
Yeah.
And then I definitely went through anger. I was so pissed off. I was so pissed, and why me? And I definitely went through all that. But with therapy, it definitely helped. And then I don't know. I hate to go on and on, but I did want to say, I feel like grief for me, the best example that I can give is if you're standing in the middle of the ocean and, when the waves come in and maybe you don't know how to swim and you're standing on solid ground, but you just feel like the water's rising and rising and rising, and you just, you're not going to be able to breathe again, and then suddenly the tide will let out, and it'll kind of calm down, and you'll be like, okay, I can do this, everything's fine, and then it would come back in, and you'd be like, oh my goodness, I can't breathe, and so it came in waves, literally, and over time, they went farther out, and the more I talked about it, the more that I shared about it, the more that I thought about it, because I didn't stay in like morbid reflection. I tried to use all that energy that I had for more positive things, and so, yeah, is that good?
Yeah, that's
okay.
really good.
Okay.
Yes. Now, I know you've spoken about, the therapy played a big part in your healing process.
Yeah.
Has religion or any things like that played a part in your healing?
Yeah, so I'm not really a religious person. I am a very spiritual person. My personal opinion, belief, whatever you want to call it, is that there is a higher power. Excuse me. And the anger part of it was about 99% directed towards that higher power. I just couldn't understand why me, and what did I do to deserve this, and things like that. I definitely went through the pity party thing. But as far as healing, absolutely, I feel like the biggest thing that I did to like break through, I guess, was surrender to the future, basically, just to say that, okay, this happened, I'm not going to die from it, I can move forward, Yeah. And once I hit that place, that's when everything, literally, right then is when everything started getting better. And it was about 3 months of just sheer grief before I hit that place. So.
Okay, so, this is another big important thing. How do you feel women can be more open about miscarriage?
Okay, so that's one of my, biggest reasons, like I said, that I wanted to do this video. I feel like ask for help, absolutely. When you go to your lady doctor, they offer things, they have support groups and things of that nature. But when you go through something like this, you don't always need for somebody to say something, and you'll realize that when it happens, but it is very good to talk about it. Even if you don't really know, necessarily what to say, just talk yourself through it. And like I said before, what was so beneficial for me was therapy. So does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's a big thing, is talking about it.
Yeah.
It's such a taboo subject to a lot of people. I think, like you said, being open about it and just talking, even if you don't know what you're saying,
right.
Talking about it is big. So then let's move on. We're going to do our last question. What advice would you give to anyone experiencing a miscarriage?
I feel like not only, other people sometimes downplay it. I did go through a period where I was, kind of hard on myself about it as well. And I feel like, we need to remember that our emotions are valid, and that we should definitely give life to them. Like I said, talk about them. Make sure that we're not just trying to deal with it on our own, because that can become very toxic for some people. It definitely would have been for me. And so I guess my advice would just be to talk about it, to express those emotions that you have, and not be scared to do so.
Right. Well, good deal. You have anything else you'd like to say?
I don't. I feel like that was pretty
in
depth.
That was fantastic.
Okay.
We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.